No one is talking about the heist the New York Rangers just pulled off, as the Rangers make a sneaky trade and it could have huge implications moving forward. We're going to break down who the player is and where he will factor into the Rangers organization in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything going on with the New York Rangers, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, the Rangers today made a pretty sneaky trade, if you want to call it that. And I think it's sneaky. I think this is a great trade, and we're going to get into why. But the player that they acquired, I think is, some people, we're going to talk about this guy in the next couple of years. He could be a New York Ranger. So obviously, the Rangers send a minor league prospect to the Tampa Bay Lightning and in return get Lucas Edmonds. Now, a lot of people are like, who's Lucas Edmonds? He's playing in the AHL. It's a minor league deal. He's playing with the Syracuse Crunch right now. He's going to come over to the Hartford Wolfpack. Now, this is from the Hartford Wolfpack website. And obviously today, Chris Drury made the trade for Lucas Edmonds, and he's been automatically assigned to the AHL's Hartford Wolfpack. And now Edmonds, 23, has scored 5 points, 1 goal, 4 assists, in 26 games with the AHL Syracuse Crunch this season. The native of North Bay, Ontario, skated in 120 AHL games in his career, scoring 48 points in that time. Now, it doesn't seem that impressive, right? But some of his junior stats are very impressive, and I think this is a guy that can make noise at the AHL level and can also develop into a player somewhere down the road to be on the New York Rangers. Now, again, he's only 23 years old. It takes these guys sometimes a long time to get acclimated to the pro level, the pro style of game, because it's very different from the OHL where he was playing. He's only 23. I think he's got time to develop into a pretty good player. And with a change of scenery, a different system, playing in the Rangers organization could be something where we see this player in a few years' time. He's not the biggest player. He's 5'11", 179 pounds. But, he is set to hit career high marks this season. And obviously, going out the other way is another 23-year-old who's played more games, less points, or not less points, but he's played more games this season. And obviously, this is probably just a change of scenery trade. I thought it was pretty interesting. And I think that Lucas Edmonds, again, can be a very sneaky pickup for the New York Rangers here. Now, you can see here from Puckpedia, Lucas Edmonds, 23-year-old forward, only making $862,000 against the cap. And again, you can see some of his stats there. And on the way out is a 22-year-old who's making basically the same. So salary, not a big deal here. Again, minor league deal in that regard. But I'm talking futures. I'm looking future. The implications this trade has moving forward, it could be pretty big for the New York Rangers. Now, Lucas Edmonds, in terms of his OHL statistics, this is a great player. He was a great player in junior. He led the OHL in assists in 2022. This is from NYR Louis. He's got a plus passing tool. You won't see it unless you tune into the Wolfpack. But still, nonetheless, word on the street, I thought this was pretty funny too. Word on the street is Chris Drury thought that he was trading for Lucas Raymond instead of Lucas Edmonds, and he's popping champagne. No one told him that it was Lucas Edmonds yet. I thought that was pretty funny. But no, I think that Lucas Edmonds, in terms of a minor league deal here, is a pretty good pickup. And we can get into some of his stats as well right now. Again, like I was saying, when he came over to the OHL, he spent 1 year in the OHL. He dominated in the OHL with the Kingston Frontenacs in 21-22. He had 113 points in 68 games played. And the other thing I thought was very interesting, it hasn't followed him thus far to his pro career, but this is a guy who was staying healthy at one point. He was playing a lot of games, almost every game in those seasons that he played. So again, hasn't followed him to the pro game yet. And like I said, it takes these guys sometimes a while to get acclimated. And we see a lot of players, even with the Rangers at times, stick around in the AHL for a while, and then they finally get their shot as they mature, as they get older, 25, 26 years old. We see it a lot in a lot of other teams. The Rangers are not the greatest example in terms of developing players in that regard. But again, if you look at his OHL stats, absolutely dominated the league that year. He was playing in the Swedish league as well. He put up some great point totals there. It's hard to score overseas as well. A lot of people don't put too much stock into that, but having 51 points in 44 games in the 1920 season is pretty great, even if it is the junior league. And again, in the OHL, he dominated. And being a half a point a game player, you know, as he's come over here, or about a half a point a game player in the AHL, is not bad either. I think this is a guy who can continue to develop, play with the Hartford Wolfpack, learn their systems, and slowly make his way up, and maybe one day could see time in the NHL. A lot of people might scoff at that. He's only 23 years old. I think this is something that could be very interesting if he continues to find his game and develop here, because he clearly had it figured out in the OHL. And the OHL is one of the best development leagues in the world. So he clearly had that figured out at that point. So we'll see what comes of this. Again, minor league deal in that regard, but I think that at some point in the future, years down the road, we could be seeing Lucas Edmonds possibly making an impact at the AHL, possibly in the NHL level as a call-up. So I think that was pretty interesting dealings there from Chris Drury, and we'll see how that plays out. Now, one last thing I wanted to get to, obviously the Rangers do not play today, Saturday off, but they do have a game tomorrow afternoon against the Colorado Avalanche. Very interesting opponent. Just made a huge trade. Mikko Rantanen no longer there. Martin Necas back in the other way. So that's going to be a very exciting game to watch with a major shakeup league-wide. And so that's a must-win for the New York Rangers in obviously the playoff race. Then you play the Carolina Hurricanes. You got both teams back-to-back that just made the biggest trades in the last 5 years possibly at this point. So you get both those teams back-to-back. It is going to be a tough couple days for the Rangers here. And I wanted to break down the schedule into segments per se, because when you look at next week, starting in February, you're playing Boston. You're actively, trying to, Boston could drop in the Atlantic Division standings. You're in the mix with them right now. You have to beat a team like Boston. Then you're playing one of the best teams in the league in the Vegas Golden Knights on next Sunday. Then you play Boston again at home at MSG. You have to win that game. You're playing Pittsburgh right after that. They're in the mix as well. They might be in the middle of a fire sale. Columbus is in the mix in the playoff race with you. If you want to get into the playoffs, you're going to have to beat Columbus, right? Then right after this, 4-nation face-off. You get about 2 weeks off. And then right after that, you have some big opponents. Again, the Buffalo Sabres are out of it, so you should win that game. You should get 2 points out of that game. Then you play Pittsburgh again. They're in the mix. The New York Islanders are falling out of the playoff race as well. You should pick up a couple wins here. You're going to have some rest. Some guys can get right. Chris Kreider can, have some rest for his back, all this stuff. A lot of these guys can get right over this period of time in February. So it's pretty exciting. The Rangers can play themselves back into a playoff spot, a healthy playoff spot, that is. New Jersey Devils, obviously Jacob Markstrom out for quite a while now, only 8 points back of them. If they continue to string wins together like they have been, the Rangers can find themselves in a very, very good spot here, especially with some of the opponents coming up. It's going to be a crazy next couple days playing Colorado and obviously Carolina back to back after that major trade involving both teams and Chicago. That is going to be wild. So very excited to watch these games coming up. And then obviously, like I said, heading into February, it's going to be very interesting. You got to win a lot of these games. But let me know what you think in the comments of obviously about Lucas Edmonds and what impact he could possibly have. Again, minor league deal, but could see that return in the future. And let me know what you think about the schedule coming up. Very interesting. Going to be an exciting week to watch Rangers hockey, and obviously heading into the Four Nations face-off, a big opportunity to put themselves right, not even back in the playoff picture, but back in a divisional playoff spot. It's going to be very interesting to see, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.